Let's do a talisman first. Let's do this. Today is Wednesday. Let's go ahead and use Mercury as our planet. So that's Raphael as our angel. And remember that we can use other angels on Wednesday because Mercury is a universal as far as messenger of the gods kind of thing. So, but we are going to go ahead and use Mercury. I'm going to start out by putting Mercury's symbol here around the corners. I don't know if you can see me very well. And then from there, I want to put in our name. Okay, and then we start out with peace. I'm going to put knowledge. And understanding. Okay, so just understand what those seed thoughts really mean for us. I'm going to trap that in there like that. And you know, if you have the these guys here, these squares, these magic squares, I won't waste a bunch of time going through the whole thing because I have several videos that show you. But if you haven't made some of these for the planets that you use and for the angels that you use, these are really very helpful. I've got bunches of different videos on how to do that. Once you get that square, this is the numeric square of Mercury. Then we use the basic numerological transference from letters to numbers, and then we put the whole alphabet on the square this way. So two ways that you can use these. One is numerically just dialing up the power of Mercury or the power of Raphael. You just go in order 1, 2, 3, like that, all the way around the square. Where's 4, 4, 5, etc. I won't go through the whole thing, okay, until you get to the end. Now, the other thing you can do, and that's just an invocational gesture, and so you just follow around. You just go from one to the end of the sequence until you're done, and that's a way to call up that energy, like a phone, like you're phone calling. You're making a phone call to Raphael. And then the other thing you can do as well, in addition to that, is take whatever your petition is and dial it up over here. So for peace, it would be P, like this, E, A, C, E, and you just go around the square as a meditation, knowledge, and you're just engraving these into your deep mind through the power of Mercury. K, K, there I am. Where's my N? Where did N go? It's probably right in front of me, right? Is N not in here? Oh, here it is. N O. I'm so out of it today. I'm sorry, guys. W L E D G E, and that's how you do that. So that's a way of dialing up your desires and engraving them into your deep mind through the sphere on which you are working. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. So you can use the numeric square for any time you have numbers in a petition, and also to actually call on the sphere, starting at 1 and going through the entire numeric sequence in order, finding where they are on the table. And then you can also dial in your desires using the alphabetical version. Another thing, which I will show you on another day, that you can do is you can take and put a piece of tracing paper over this and make a sigil out of your desire. So if I was calling on Mercury for peace, I could take that, and I'll show you this on a different day. I could take a tracing paper and then just actually make a sigil out of the word. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that on another day. We don't have time for that right now because I'm going to get into this, finish this talisman, and then I'm going to get into some Qabalah work. Okay, so let's cleanse the space. I've got Roger and Galet here, so I call upon the Carib of the east, I call upon the Carib of the south, I call upon the Carib of the west, And I call upon the Carib of the North to cleanse, purify, and empower this circle. And we are planting the seeds through the power of our Archangel Raphael of peace, knowledge, and understanding into our deep minds. 2 sprays there. And then I'm going to put 1 spray of the muguet, or lily of the valley. Implanting those seeds of peace, knowledge, and understanding. We light a candle. I'm going to let this candle burn down and out, and then we will hide this talisman away where it can broadcast those thoughts to us until we want to deactivate that talisman. All right, here we go. Now, those of you who have already done a lot of Qabalah work, this may be a little bit of a review, but I want to make sure we're all on the same page, okay? So this is the order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. See how that works? Okay, so this top sphere is Kether. This is the Godhead, and this is the sphere that we call on when we're doing psalm magic. Okay, now the first emanation after that is this sphere here, which is not a it's not a planet yet. This is called wisdom. So this is the crown, and this is wisdom, and this is the God the Father. Okay, and this here is understanding, and this is the Mother Goddess. So this is Godhead, God the Father, Mother Goddess. But this is also the beginning of planetary association. So this is the sphere of Saturn, whereas this is the sphere of the zodiac itself. Okay, this has no correspondence whatsoever. Some people put planetary correspondences up there, but I disagree with them. Okay, and then here we have a pretend sphere, which is the abyss. And then here we have this sphere of Jupiter. And then we have the sphere of Mars. We have the sphere of the Sun. We have the sphere of Venus. We have the sphere of Mercury. We have the sphere of the Moon. And then we have the sphere of the Earth. Okay? So, and it's not showing up very well, but you can make your own tree like that. So the reason why I'm talking about this is that the angels that we work with sit on these spheres here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, okay? So these are the spheres that we work with mostly. Now, we were just talking about the sphere of Mercury on here. So when we do work with, let me just do with that. When we do work with tools like these squares, we are taking whatever these desires, whatever these thought seeds are, and we are personalizing them to this sphere that we are working on. So because of the way that the square is laid out, for Mercury here, how the alphabet is thusly also laid out is unique to Mercury. So anytime we are dialing up a desire, we're on this square, we're dialing up that desire as it pertains to this sphere on the tree of life. I hope that makes sense. If I had that same sphere, if I had a different table on for Venus, which I do, but I don't have it here. I don't want to go over and get it. Then the configuration on the square is completely different. So when if I use the same desire, it would have to come through a different pattern on a square that is unique to this sphere, et cetera, et cetera. Does that make sense? So that's it's important to understand that that if you were asking for the same thing or working on the same thing from a different sphere, it would be a completely different energy. It would be a completely different configuration on the square. It would be a different type of manifestation, and oftentimes it would be a very different way of looking at whatever the issue is. For instance, if you were looking for, say you asked for understanding, you asked for understanding from Saturn. Well, Saturn is the sphere called understanding, but doesn't mean that's the only sphere that can give you understanding. But that's understanding is what Saturn is what this great goddess figure is. So the way that you would approach understanding from Saturn's point of view would be very different from the way that you would approach understanding from Mercury's point of view. From Raphael or Mercury's point of view, there's a lot of mental work with understanding, whereas with Saturn or with the great goddess, it bypasses the mind, and it's more of a supernal causative experience. Same thing goes with wealth. The way you would deal with wealth from Jupiter might be different from the way you deal with wealth from the sun, or even wealth from Venus. Venus's wealth is all about beauty and luxury, whereas the sun it's all about that which is life-giving. Whereas with Jupiter, it's more about where how things can be expanded, right? Whereas if it's Mercury, it's more about how it deals with commerce and buying and selling. Maybe how you get to work, your vehicle. Whereas Mars would be more like conflicts in the workplace. Saturn, it would be more about what you're here to do, what your karmic purpose is here, right? So with the sun, with the moon, it would be more about how you can draw the right job to you. Things like that. Okay, so that's like when we say any psalm can be used for any purpose. In some ways, any angel can be called on for any purpose, but how you approach them is going to be very different. Now, we do have very specific, meanings, and what I would like for you to do is to take one of these, to make one of these trees. You can either do what I did, and that's take a shortcut today, and I just downloaded a blank tree form off the web. But if you haven't made a tree before, it's actually better if you can do something like this, where you just create it yourself. It gets it better into your mind. Here's another version of that. Okay, and then you can just take a notebook, take your maybe if you have a notebook that you use for angel magic or Qabalah magic. What I would like to see you do is take, first of all, the sphere of your birth angel. Start with that. Start with the sphere of your birth angel. Now, if you have Uriel, he doesn't have a sphere. Uriel does not have a sphere, but you can use this sphere instead, this sphere of Qabalah. Uriel's sphere is the lightning bolt, so that he's not really a sphere. Okay. Some people would also put Uriel here in this sphere of Da'at, which we'll talk about in another day. But so if Uriel is your angel, then either start with your solar angel, or just use Saturn, because that's that's Uriel's old planetary ruler, not Uranus. Okay, and just take that sphere and just say, okay, now what do I know? Let's say your moon is in Leo. So here we have with the sun. So what do we know about the sun? What are some things? Think of this as a filing cabinet. What are some things that the sun and Michael rule? Well, let's see. Definitely career. Here's my sun. So he definitely rules career. Probably worldly ambition. So in that sense, it could be success and prosperity. Right. What he tends to he rules music. Michael rules music. Probably sports. He's one of the ones that would rule sports. Healing of the physical body, right? So just start thinking about all the things you know, but then think in terms, okay, well then we know that the day is Sunday. Making your own sheet of correspondences, and And if there's something listed on one of the correspondence sheets that you have questions about, don't just assume it's true for you. Ask why. Like for instance, we've got let's say we've got what is his metals are gold. Well, that makes sense. What are some perfumes? No, let's think of flowers. Some flowers that he has. Well, sunflower, that makes sense, right? Heliotrope would work because now sunflower makes sense because it looks like the sun, right? It looks like a sun. So it's called sunflower. So that makes sense. Heliotrope, in the name, it's something to do with the sun. But if you look at a heliotrope, it doesn't look solar, but it behaves by following the sun. That's why they call it heliotrope. It follows the path of the sun more than any other flower. I mean, it's just like, it really follows it throughout the day. So heliotrope is a good one for flowers. But what other things look like the sun? Marigolds. What else? Peonies sometimes look like the sun. Orange blossoms sometimes look like the sun, right? So it's not arbitrary. We want to make sure that that the stuff makes sense. What about some stones? Well, amber kind of reminds us of the sun as far as how it, the coloring, the gold coloring, the carnelian. Now, some people say diamond. Now, why diamond? Now, I can see their point of view. Diamond, it's a very hard stone. It takes a long time to come about. But with diamonds, to me, they're so far down. They're like when you think of diamond in the rough, they don't just like dig up a diamond and like, oh, what a pretty diamond. They have to like take it out of all of that stuff. Diamonds are usually really well hidden. So to me, I don't know that makes sense because the sun doesn't really spend much time hiding itself. When it's out, it's out. Unless there's cloud covering, the sun doesn't really, but the other planets to me would be more like diamond, maybe like Saturn, because it's so hard, it's so old, it's so hidden. So that I kind of am not part of the fray when it comes to diamond. Now, diamond is supposed to be Aries birthstone, and if that's true, then it would be more Mars, and I could see that because there's fire in a diamond. I could see Mars even more than I could see the sun. So you see what I'm saying? We want to make sure that it makes sense to us. What else with any of those goldish stones, the topazes and things like that, tiger's eye? What about animals? Well, Michael rules all cats, all the lions, all the wild cats, even the domestic cats. So that's very, it's very traditional, but we want to know why. Well, for one thing, the sun rules Leo, and Leo is the sign of the lion, and so that's the only feline in the zodiac. But what are felines like? What is the feline attitude? Very, very solar, very, self-willed, very into being the center of attention, very, sort of they're not necessarily loyal to anybody but themselves, let's put it that way. And so that's the sun. The sun is loyal to itself. It shines, right? So we would say that the solar angel, which is Michael, rules all cats, protects all cats, right? And so if, let's just do a few more. Let's look at insects. Okay. Any golden insect, so a butterfly that's golden in color would make sense. Bees sometimes because of the golden honey, but technically bees are really Sakiel. They're Jupiter, they're Thursday for most of us, and there's a long tradition of that. Daddy long legs, definitely, I could see that. So let's see what else. Oh, what kind of birds? Well, peacock, that makes sense, right? Peacock makes sense. Sparrow, that is very common. What part of the body do you think is here? Well, definitely the heart, right? You'd be writing all this down. I just stopped doing that just because I was talking. Um, Oh, maybe the spinal column, the nervous system, things like that. If you're more into the medical astrology, you can really do research on that as well. Probably the spleen. Um, and then if some one of those aspects or qualities of spirit, Mikael rules life usually. That's what most people think of the sun as the source of life, so divine life. So anyway, the only reason why this is important is because if you can really get a handle on what these correspondences mean, then the law of correspondence, the principle of correspondence, can be something that you utilize to make your magic a lot more effective. And this is how. As now, you don't have to incorporate every single thing that you discover, right? That's overkill. You don't have to, but you can just take a few things. You can take some of maybe some of his perfumes, and use those. You can take some of the colors and use those in the types of candles and in the types of altar cloths that you work with. You could have images of a cat on your altar if you wanted. You could have his flowers on your altar. When you're working with Mikael, you could have sunflowers or heliotrope or something like that. Um, Definitely, if you're doing some kind of charm or something that has anything to do with Mikael or the sun, then you could incorporate those stones with that. You know what I'm saying? Um, the number six in the Qabalah, the number six, and all of the harmonics of six. You could mostly the harmonics are used for measurement, but so if you had let's say you had a circle of six carnelians, that would be a very very strong way to call on that sphere and that angel using the occult law of correspondence. So you're just using his number and some of his stones. Six carnelians. That would make a lot of sense, right? You could, if you were doing a spell for, let's say you were doing a spell for healing with Mikael, you could say, well, let's see, what are some of his herbs? Chamomile. Chamomile looks like the sun. So I could actually make some chamomile tea, right? And I could put maybe six petals off of a marigold or a sunflower into that brew, right? And then focus my thought form of healing into that brew, and then drink the tea. I mean, that's just a very simple spell, but see how powerful that is when you're doing it through the sphere that you're working on. So just drinking a cup of chamomile tea wouldn't have the same effect as charging a cup of chamomile tea with the powers of the sphere of the sun and his archangel Mikael, and then maybe incorporating some trigger, like I said, using six petals of a flower in the tea, that sort of thing. So and it just goes on forever. I mean, there is no limit to how many correspondences you can find for each of these spheres. So start out with your lunar birth angel and see how complete you can make it. Follow through the correspondences that I give you, but then ask yourself why. Do you agree with it? What would be something else that you would use that doesn't make sense on that list? What is something that's not on that list that to you makes sense? You know, what is something that's on that list that doesn't make sense to you that you're not going to use, or that you're going to think about some more before you incorporate it? You know, because if you're just looking something up on a piece of paper or in a book and saying, okay, I'm going to do this, it doesn't have nearly the same impact as understanding why you're doing what you're doing. You know, understanding what you're doing and why you're doing it, and then thinking it through and doing it that way. That's going to have a lot more impact. let's see. What element is the sun? Well, it's fire, obviously. So so candle spells and fire spells and things like that might be a better use of your magic than water spells. However, the tea spell is kind of nice because it's hot water, because you're heating up the water. So you're incorporating the element of fire, and you're using that hot water to extract something from one of his flowers. So that would, I'm cool with whatever you come up with. Just think it through and do it right. I'm trying to think of anything else here that I could tell you about this guy. Well, herbs. Okay, so like herbs. He's got thyme as one of his herbs. Just growing some thyme in your herb garden or on your windowsill that you've dedicated to your birth angel is a way of bringing protection into your home. Just that simple. Nobody would ever have to know that your little crop of thyme, that's just that little herb garden, had anything to do with bringing great protection to your home. But you can see how it could do that if you did it mindfully, if you did it, mindfully. Same thing with cinnamon. Cinnamon's a spice. So if you say you wanted to take some like a cinnamon stick, and you could flavor something, or even powdered cinnamon. You could flavor something that you were cooking with that cinnamon, like maybe some dessert. So like say you were making, like, I don't know, baked apples or something like that. When you added the cinnamon, you're not just going to add the cinnamon because it's in the recipe. You're going to call on Mikael through the cinnamon, since that's one of his spices, and bring that energy into whatever you're cooking, so that now that what you're cooking, when you eat it, you're assimilating something more than just food. Make sense? All right, let's see if there's any questions. You could make crystal elixir water made from the correct crystal to make the tea. Yes, you could. Yes, you could. Or you could just make the tea. Whatever you want to do. I mean, it's up to you. Let's see if there's any other. Okay. Nobody really has any questions other than that. Great. All right, so that's really what I wanted to talk about with this. Was this starting to, when you start working with your birth angels, don't just, don't be passive about it. Investigate them. And eventually you want to investigate all the planetary spheres first, and then we can start working at those other spheres, this 1, 2, and 10. But working with all these spheres that have the angelic presences associated with them, and really finding out about them, really asking yourself, the deep questions about them. Okay, and if like I said, if Uriel is your angel, go ahead and look at the correspondences that I'm suggesting, and think of it when you're thinking of Uriel being the angel of those correspondences, rather than him on this sphere here, which is what you can do when you're working some magic, is just substitute this sphere. But think for those correspondences, think of Uriel as existing here, as this lightning bolt, as this agent of change, swift change. Swift change is what Uriel is, an agent of swift change. Okay. All right, so that's probably it for today. Tomorrow we're going to definitely do a spell, and Friday we'll probably do a spell too before the rosary. Sorry about my sound today. I don't know what happened. It seems to be working now, but thanks so much. Oh, talk a little bit about a Samael, okay? Sure. Samael is the archangel of the sphere of Mars. And the thing about Samael is he's been conflated with another angel who is conflated with Satan, and it's incorrect. It's almost like Lucifer and Satan being conflated, only it's even a little bit more so, because there's never, Samael's never been one of those fallen angels. So there's a lot of bad press on him, unfortunately. but it's unfounded. Let me find him in here for you. So Mars and Tuesday. Anytime you need courage, anytime you have enemies, anytime you have like fights and wars and things like that, rather than fighting them yourself, we call on Samael to fight for us, because Samael knows how to fight in a way that everybody's a winner, because Samael does things through angelic means. So Samael's not coming in with a lot of with any ego, right? So, but also he's also another one for sports, especially if you're doing like karate and kung fu and things like that. Um, he's also the god of surgery, the angel of surgery, because of the cutting and the knife and the scalpel. Um, he protects against violence. He's who you would call on if there are forest fires. He doesn't start fires. He protects from them. He can calm the fires. He any kind of violence, any kind of enemy, any kind of danger in the community, like criminals and rapists and things like that. Any of the terrorism, things like that, he can overcome. He also is a great one if there's been a long protracted illness or surgery and you need to recover. He is the one to go to for that. Anything about machines and machinery, stuff that if machinery is breaking down, he's all about machinery. Okay, um, headaches, rashes, um, safety. So OSHA stuff like workplace injuries and things like that. That's really ruled by Samael more than some people would say that that's ruled by Jupiter because it's a legal body, but no, it's because it's safety in the workplace. It's safety. Some people say because it's in the workplace, it's Raphael. I can see that, but really it's all about workplace safety and injury protection from injury. So any kind of injuries are ruled by him. So, but remember, he's angelic, so you're not going to call on Samael to hurt someone, to cause injury. You're going to call on Samael to protect from injury and to heal injury. Makes sense? So anything that's hot and red and spiky is Samael, is Mars. So think of and I mean the rose is definitely Venus, but it's also Samael. It's also Mars because of those thorns, and especially the red rose. It's red and it's thorny, right? It's very protective. So they're both inherent in that flower. Um, anything red and spiky looking, even strawberries, even though they're a water or they're a berry, they're red and they've got a little spikiness to them. Any kind of red fruit, and prickly pears because it's that cactus, thorns, peppers, hot peppers, black pepper, even red flowers, spicy stuff. But then also, one of his flowers is that we use for the perfumes is honeysuckle, especially the red honeysuckle. And so Samael's got a real sweet side to Samael, because he's angelic. The fifth sphere on the tree of life doesn't have too much sweetness. If you look at the ancient myths of Greece and Rome, that god was not so sweet except for with Venus. But with Samael, it's not quite the same because Samael is there for a higher purpose. Samael's not bound to a personality of like the Greek gods were. Samael is bringing an energy in ways that can help humanity. Okay. All right, hopefully that helped out a little bit. Okay, everybody, this was great. I'm sorry that we had a little slow start, but I'm glad it all worked out. And I don't think we're using any of this on a upload. This was just for you guys because I know that I'd had a lot of people asking some questions about the Qabalah, so I wanted to get that covered. And And then, like I said, tomorrow we'll do some actual spell work before the prosperity lecture. All right. Well, thank you so much, and I will see y'all tomorrow. I love you very much. Blessed be.